Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our work session for September the 29th, 2022. Do I have anybody that would like to open us in prayer this morning? If not, I will use my skills on that once again. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, thank you for this day that you've given us to come out and do the business of the city. I pray that you'll be with us as we have discussions today about important issues that are facing our city. I pray that you will help us make the best comments and the ideas that can help us move forward together as a city. In that name we pray. Amen.
That's good.
You sound surprised. All right, good morning. Thank you all for being here. We have started, give a little background every now and then on our work sessions. We started doing these this year in preparation for council meetings that are coming up the next week. And so that we can help the council be, and myself be better informed on some of the things that are going on that will be facing the city on behalf of our citizens. We also record these so that if council members who can attend because of travel and work and other things can go back and also be able to review them as well. So our first item on the agenda is the revitalization plans for Leadership Plaza. And we have Miss Penny Bowen here on behalf of Main Street Columbus to give us a quick presentation.
Since the drawing is going to be far from me, I thought I'd go ahead and print it out for you.
Thank you.
So in your package, the very first two pages are Leadership Plaza. Well, first of all, thank you for letting me come and tell you about this exciting project that we're trying to take on. This is, again, a project with Columbus Main Street under the direction of Barbara Bigelow, who's here with, if you have any questions, she's great at answering the history of this area. Okay, so Leadership Plaza, as you know, is alongside Hollyhocks, and I've attached some pictures that were taken this morning of the current status of Leadership Plaza. The first photograph is the overview of it. You'll see there's a round platform in the center of that photograph, and on the back side of it we have an arbor. The arbor is built of just treated lumber, and it has never been painted or stained, so it's looking a little worn. And then the second picture is there are 3 oak trees that line the road. That is College Street. And at the base of those trees, they're so long, it is bucking up the concrete. The roots are starting to cause what I think is a pretty bad pedestrian hazard. As you can see, that concrete's pretty buckled up. The next page, I tried to get a picture, and it's hard, you may want to go look at it yourself, but this photograph is showing not only is it bucked up around the base of the tree, but actually pushed the concrete down towards the next pour of concrete, which is aggregate concrete. So it's coming up and down. So we've got a pretty big issue with that there. And then the last one is showing the status of the plantings in that area. So over the last several years, I've been on the Main Street Board Committee for Design for several years, and we maintain it as best we can. About once a year, we buy new plants where the ferns maybe have died or whatever, and we pull weeds. So we go about once or twice a year, and we try to pull the weeds and kind of keep it up. But this is what it looks like in between times. So you can see it's not a very good representation of our city. So we decided we wanted to try to take this on. We are going to pursue a grant to pay for the majority of this project. That is something that we'll do in the Main Street office. But we hired John May, who is a landscape architect in the area, to come up with this design. So the third page is the overall plan. The loops, I'm going to go ahead and get my visual aid up. So these loops right here are the tree line, the drip line of those 3 oak trees that are lining the street. So these loops right here are actually the poured concrete that's there. We do not propose to change anything with concrete except repairing where we have an issue. So that part, you know, is down from here down, but the rest of it is gonna remain as is. The arbor that was wrapping the back side of this center circle that you see in the pictures, we propose to remove that, totally do away with that, and build a brand new pavilion, more of a gazebo type, that's more indicative of our south side, because I kind of feel like this is the gateway to our south side architecture that we have. And so I wanted to try to incorporate, so John May did the overall design, and then I worked on this a little bit more, and this would have the detailings of some of the south side architecture. So you'll look in your packet after the 3 pages that show the design. There's a couple photographs of some houses, some structures on south side that I kind of took inspiration from. So the columns on the yellow, which is the attic, was the old attic building that we have. I kind of would like the columns to be designed after it. And then there's another picture that shows some arches. And so I'm taking inspiration from our actual south side to do the pavilion with. So then, in addition, all of the landscaping, with the exception of these 4 yellow trees, will be completely new. These 3 trees will remain as is, just trimmed up and taken care of. And this 4th tree is actually here. We're going to move it. So it's a crepe myrtle that's in really good shape that we put in maybe 2 or 3 years ago when we were redoing that season. We put it in. It's not too big that we can't move it. So we propose to move that one. But everything else landscaping-wise will be brand new. The concrete will be the same, new pavilion, and we're going to add lighting. So there is a lighting in there that we paid for maybe 2 years ago, 1 year ago. When did we do that? The lighting that we did, I think it was a year or 2 ago. But we want to add to it. Several. Was it that long? Time flies when you're having fun. Anyway, so we want to add to it, add more lighting, up lights on those pretty oak trees. Also in our proposal, we are doing an arborist, John May is an arborist, will come in and assist in trimming the trees properly, the oak trees, so that they will last. There's some dead limbs and stuff. So, all this to be said, do you have any questions about the plan or the design of it before I get into what we're asking or what we're hoping for?
Yeah, that's all I was gonna ask. What's the total cost and how much is the grant we're going after?
Okay, we are in the process of getting the cost. I have 2 of the 3 bids in that will add up to be. We expect it to be $35,000 to $40,000 project. The grant pays up to $50,000 on the project, so it is there. But it did not include the concrete part, which is what I was going to try to talk to you guys about. So that would probably push us over the $50,000 probably if we had to pay to do that part of it. So the landscape architect suggested at a minimum that we come 30 inches from the base of the tree, not from the center, but 30 inches from the base of the tree, and cut out larger tree wells. Was hoping that maybe that was something that the city could do, is to cut those out. This is the public hazard part that I think is, you know, the most important part, other than just making it beautiful. But he's proposed at least 30 inches out, and then maybe fill it with mulch or rocks or something, and give that tree some breathing room and take away the hazard. So people would walk further around. There would be less sidewalk. I'm wondering if we don't want to take out all of that concrete and re-pour that area minus that, because there's more hazards than just at the base of the tree. I think that you guys should look into that part of it, but I think that the concrete part will put us over the grant part, other than, you know, don't you agree?
I think so.
Yeah. And Barbara made me aware that it's probably been 35 plus years since we've done any, you know, city maintenance. They help us, the city helps us do the mulching when we do it, and they leaf blow it and then that. But serious maintenance, it's been probably about 35 years since it's been done. So we're hoping that we can get approval to go forward with our project, and then maybe look into help on the concrete portion of it.
And the city does own we own that plaza, right? We own this,
Yes, from my understanding, yes.
I think so.
okay, so from looking at this, I mean, obviously the sidewalk issue, that's a hazard. Somebody could fall and hurt themselves on that. So what is the time frame again on the project? Have y'all already put in for the,
We have not put in for the grant yet. We're in the process of making out the application.
is it a
We have to
state
get-
grant or is it a, who is it through?
It's actually a T-Mobile.
T-Mobile? Okay. Yeah, okay.
She's got the majority of the paperwork filled out. We're trying to get the last piece of the puzzle, and that's the price on the actual pavilion portion. I have the landscaping price and I have the lighting price, and we need to get the pavilion price pinned down. As soon as we have that, we'll have all the information we need to go ahead and file for the, and we need approval from the board and a letter from the mayor saying that we have permission to do this in the grant process as well.
And when's the deadline again? I'm sorry.
There's not a deadline, we have a few months.
Okay.
We'd like to move forward, of course.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as we could, just because of the hazards involved, and they've been there for so long. But, we do have to wait on a couple more, budget items, which we're just waiting for momentarily. We don't, my deadline was a month ago.
Yeah, our board is very eager to see this happen. When we first proposed the idea, they were like, okay, let's do it. You know, they were ready to go. I said, wait a minute now. It's gonna be a little bit more than that, but our Main Street board is very eager to, and I don't think that there would be any dust settling on it once we got approval.
So what's the estimated cost that you're asking for from the city?
All we're asking for is concrete repairs. We'll
Just the repairs
just,
and the concrete.
mhm.
Yeah, just to dig
Cut-
out that
cut out-
larger
At
area.
minimum, cut out the base part, and then possibly consider replacing that whole swath of concrete, because you actually have some dipping down too. It probably dips down about 2.5 inches or so, but still, that's probably enough to trip somebody up. But it's nothing like the base of the trees. The base of the trees are just got to do.
Even if you dig it all out, though, you're still gonna have it going narrow and wide in places, correct?
Narrow and wide.
Does that-
In other words, the tree trunk is protruding into the walkway, so you don't wanna cut up the tree trunk or kill the tree, so you have to kind of go around it, right?
Right, we propose just cutting out the concrete portion and letting the tree breathe. But if we were able to replace that whole section, then you take that up and then form it out so that you've cleared all the bumps of the tree roots and pour it up to that part.
So you just would then move it over.
Yeah, basically, give it more room. When you replace it, you would just give the trees more room at that point instead of soft cutting.
And widen the sidewalk there to be equal, or, you'll have narrow places?
There's really not a sidewalk there in the first photograph. I think it may show, it's more of just an all concreted area. So there's not like a sidewalk anymore. It's just the whole thing is concreted.
This tree is right here, correct?
That's the very first one on the corner close to WCBI is that tree. And then that might be the second tree.
And this bulb, right?
Buckled right there. And then that's a better picture of it. That's where it's dipping down. And it's a good 10, 15 feet away. It's dipping back down. I guess the tree lifted it up and the other pushed it down. So it's
Root systems.
really, truly more than just the base of the tree problem.
Council, do y'all think it would probably be good to get, try to talk to Kevin to give us an estimate on what that would cost for the city to repair that?
Yeah, definitely, because I would like to see those budget for, if we were known, during the budget process, so we don't hit Casey's budget, if it's gonna come out of his budget or if it's, coming out of the other budget that we have, so.
When we do normal repairs on sidewalks and stuff like that, does that come out of the general fund or does it come out of Casey's
I
budget?
think Casey,
Do we set aside a certain amount for sidewalks and stuff like that, or?
yeah, I think.
Yes, there's a line item for it.
But it definitely be something to discuss, I mean, it definitely needs to be done because it's safe to have it anyway.
It's a safety, yeah. So I would say that we will get with the city engineer and see what the cost would be to be able to repair that. Yeah, it is part of tourism, yeah.
You might could use that motel tax, a bed tax for that, because it's arguably some kind of a space for,
Yeah.
So we got at least 3 options for money that we need, okay?
Yeah, so we'll get that cost, and then as far as y'all moving forward with yours, we need a council vote on that. Do y'all wanna try to bring that up at the next council meeting, or would y'all, on Tuesday, would y'all like to add that to the agenda?
It's-
I mean, if they don't have all that stuff together right now, I mean, and we know that we're gonna do it, so just let them go ahead and finish doing what they doing, and once they get to that part, then we'll
Okay.
get it.
The bid on the pavilion part was the last piece of the puzzle, and I spoke with the contractor this morning. He said he would try to have it within a week, because he's going on vacation after that. He said, I'll get it done before going on vacation.
So
So
it would
within
be
a
ready-
week, I should have
So what-
everything except the letter of, permission to be able to do something on that piece of property.
Okay, so we need to wait to another council meeting so you got all your information, and in the meantime, we'll work on getting.
Do you get to apply for the grant though, do you need permission to?
In order to apply for the finished application for the grant, we would need a letter stating that we have permission to do this improvement on the city property.
So we can still wait till not this meeting, but the next council meeting to get there. Still got time.
Okay.
Okay.
So that letter would require council
Yes.
approval, okay?
Yes,
That
all
sounds
right.
good. Thank you.
Thank you, thank
Any other
y'all
questions?
for being here.
Okay.
Any council, any questions for them before they go? We appreciate what you're doing. Thank y'all so much. Okay, next on the agenda is our redistricting plan, and we've got Mr. Chris Watkins here for an update. Watson, I'm sorry. It says Watkins on here. I'm sorry, Mr. Watson.
I take no offense whatsoever.
Thank you.
It's good to see all of you this morning. So just to give you a little background of how we've gotten to the point where we are, if you recall, I guess it was maybe back in May, I came to a workshop and provided the council with what I had titled a draft redistricting plan. That redistricting plan was compiled with, my judgment only, without the benefit of input from any council members. You might also remember that your attorney, there were some open meeting issues with regard to us getting together and having individual meetings in order for me to get your input. Anyway, that kind of derailed the way we typically like to do this and typically like to get input from individual council members in order to know, the best areas to move or not move when adjusting wards to adjust population. So I created this draft plan. I provided everybody a copy. I assume you still have your copy. At the last workshop, when I presented that plan to you, I kind of left a homework assignment, so to speak, with you, and that is that if you have any concerns about the plan or any areas that you're gaining or losing that you might want to explore something different, then I would need to know that so that we would know which areas to move or whether or not we come back in a work session and explore those moves or what have you. I've not heard from anybody in terms of any concerns of the plan. If I remember right, I think Ms. Stewart, at the time I was here last, had a concern. She didn't like the fact that her minority makeup in the draft plan drops a little bit. It drops for the black voting age population is currently at 86.8%. It drops to 78.6%. She said she didn't like that. Presumably she still doesn't like that. But that was the only feedback that I recall from that process, and I've not gotten any feedback since that time. Now, if everybody is happy with the proposed plan, then we can move forward. We have a public hearing. Assuming public hearing doesn't produce any changes, then we can prepare an ordinance for you all to adopt, and subsequent to that, we adjust precincts and polling places as needed, and then you're done with this process, except for the circuit clerk updating the voter roll. If someone does have areas that they want to change or concerns that you want to address, then I need to know that. And those need to be communicated to me, either in a work session or in writing, or ever how they can best be communicated to me so that I can modify the plan and provide you all with another alternative for consideration. But that's, in essence, where we are, is I'm waiting to know whether the council wants to go with what we got or whether or not there are changes that need to be made.
take a look at it.
What you drew up is not what you're necessarily recommending. It just meets the one man, one vote, numerosity issues, and you don't, even though you have some decline in voting strength here and there, it's within the permissible amount, correct?
The draft plan, in my opinion, would be a legal plan if it were adopted, but it obviously may not fit the political preferences of council members.
And when we asked you to come with a plan, it was not, you were reluctant to do that, as I recall it, and the instruction was, bring something for us to get the conversation started.
That's right. That's right. It's impossible for me to know the political preferences without talking to everyone.
And let's, just for people that may not remember, I think Ms. Stewart's ward was the one that was affected the most because of population. Is that correct?
She was 500 people underpopulated. Ward 6 was 650 people overpopulated. So those are the two outliers.
And so the only one that didn't have lines moving in it was Councilman Green's Ward 3. Is that correct?
That is correct. Ward 3 did not change.
Right. And so, and I believe y'all been looking, haven't y'all kind of been looking at this some, and you haven't?
Do I need to send everyone these maps, so you have a map of it?
Please send me one.
Now, this is the big one hanging out here, but y'all need individual ones too. And what's the deadline for remind everybody on that, when this has to be, a decision has to be made?
Well, your next election, I think, is what, 2025?
Yes.
So you're not, you're not
Unless somebody
sitting,
vacates office or passes on. if that's-
That's right.
One of us could,
you need to be, I would say, if you were finished by, the fall of 2024.
Well, I would think that you want to do it in enough time that people will know and get accustomed to where they're going to have to vote at. So, yeah.
True,
And who wants to run for what seat if there's somebody out there?
true. Those are certainly considerations. But, we're here at the latter part of 2022. We've got plenty of time to get it done.
Right.
We're not in a time crunch. But there's no reason necessarily to
Rush it.
there's no reason
To wait till the
necessarily
last
to
minute.
rush it if somebody's undecided, but there's no reason to drag your feet either.
right.
But, I can move at whatever pace you all want to move.
Well, let me ask you this, is there this happens, other municipalities, the counties had to do it. Is there when somebody's going through this process, is there a best practice in how quickly or how you go about it? To give the council some idea of what a good deadline would be?
For a practical standpoint, you need to be finished 6 months prior to the qualifying date for your election. Because
At the latest.
At the latest, yes. Because adjustments will have to be made to the voter roll, people will be moved from one polling place to another. They will have to get notice of that. Circuit clerk has work to do to get the voter roll updated. So, a good rule of thumb is 6 months prior to your opening and qualifying. Candidates want to know.
And if somebody vacated office or passed on and you don't have the plan, then what?
You have that special election in the districts as they exist today. I mean, let's just say in 2 months from now, you had to have a special election, but there's not a plan adopted, and you have to run on your old districts.
Yeah. So, because when we have a vacation from office, you have to have an election immediately under our charter. And so there wouldn't be time to go through redistricting before the election.
And let's discuss again, what's the best, how best can the council work with you on this? As far as making sure that, they've got everything they need, you've got everything they need, because everybody's gonna get busy when we leave this. So is there what's the best avenue for the council?
So what I would suggest is each individual council member take the plan. I'm gonna mail everybody a new map, a new data sheet, so you have something to work with. write down what your concerns are, make yourself notes. You know, if you're losing an area that you don't want to lose, if your racial composition is changing more than you want it to change, if you know, write down those concerns. And since we can't get together on a one-on-one basis, then perhaps we can set a time certain that everybody can be here and we can have a work session. I can bring my computer, we can plug it into the television, and we can explore what, you know, what changes look like. We can do it interactively, and everybody can see. In other words, you know, something that you may want to change, you know, we can change it. It may not work, or we may change it, but the other affected council member may not like it. You know, y'all, you know, it can create conflict among council members. And of course, I can't solve that conflict for you, you know, whatever it may be. But that, you know, interactively is perhaps the best way to do it. The council has got to study the plan, determine what their concerns are, and then everybody agree to a day certain that we can come together and work on this.
If I could add, I don't think there's any reasonable way you can do it without all the council members present at the same time, because when you get your computer and you move a line from one block to another, you have all this data in your computer that tells you what the minority voting strength is in that particular spot.
Mm-hmm.
And so it may go up or it may go down, and it may affect another ward. It will affect, no matter where you move it, there are at least 2 wards going to be affected.
That's right.
And so I don't see how you can have a productive one-on-one without, because you're not going to know how the other affected ward is going to be.
Let me tell you how.
Ethics Commission says we can't do three separate meetings or 2 separate meetings.
Sure. I'll tell you, and I won't reveal the jurisdiction, but I have done it on one-on-one type basis before, and we literally wind up with a dozen different redistricting plans. Because, you know, if we draw a plan that satisfies you, then it may be dissatisfactory to your neighbor. So we produce both plans, and y'all just have to vote it out as to which one you want to adopt. So we wind up with, you know, everybody has a plan, and then everybody has a different, slightly tweaked version of the plan. It gets a little chaotic. It really does. So if everybody can get in the same room and have discussions about, you know, I don't want to lose this because, you know, will you let me have this, and, you know, that's my kinfolk, I want to be able to vote for me, that kind of thing, that's better.
When do the new lines take effect? Is it at the next election or as soon as they're voted on?
They would, it depends on how the ordinance is worded. Those ordinances are often worded such that, you know, the new lines would be in effect for the next regular election unless the necessity for a special election arose or something to that effect. I mean, we'd look at how we worded it a decade ago and handle it that way, unless the council wanted something different.
And I would think that it should be effective 30 days after the ordinance is adopted, so that people will know where the lines are and where the precincts are and where the polling places are.
Yeah. I mean, y'all can do it any way you want to do it in terms of when those lines take effect. It shouldn't affect anybody's position in their ward because we're going to keep everybody in their ward.
But I think your incumbents need to know who their constituents are early on too, so.
Sure.
Yeah, it seems to me logically that it wouldn't take effect until the next election because you're already representing a certain number of people, and those people would remain in your ward until the next election, correct?
You could do it that way. I think you should make it effective immediately so you can, because those people are gonna be voting for you or against you when the next election comes along, so.
You're getting some money.
Any other questions?
So let me make sure I got this right. So we have a total of 19,149 people that are on our voting poll, on our voting roll. Well, you got voting age population,
That's voting age population,
but they're not necessarily registered. No one knows that or not.
not necessarily registered voters.
That's the census data that determined that. There are probably more people than that
Exactly.
that didn't respond to the census. So Ms.
Right.
Stewart probably didn't lose 500 people. She just had some
Yeah.
The
more.
census was taken during COVID, so.
That's another point, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't have, are you able to get the voting, the people that are actually registered vote in these areas?
In
to
each
see how
ward?
that- Yeah.
Sure, you can pull circuit clerk's office can provide us a report with the number of registered voters by ward for the city, yes, sir.
But you don't use that in doing your redistricting.
That's not, you don't use that for the purposes of correcting the one person, one vote issue. Now,
The reason why I say because we still have like Ward 2, it'll be 2,948 people, quote unquote, the voting age population, but then you come down to 6 and it's still 3,333. So if we got over here total population and we're trying to split it to 4,014 people, then why won't we do it by voting age population instead of total population?
because the law, and keep in mind,
They
redistrict,
may be 16 and then they turn 18 by the time you get ready to vote, so.
let me give you the short answer. It's because you, as an elected representative, you represent everybody, not just the voters. You represent the children and the teenagers and everybody of all ages. And there are Supreme Court cases that say that's what, the legislatures represent everybody. Therefore, the one person, one vote compliance is measured on all people and not just voting age people. And not just registered voters either, you see.
All good questions. Any others? If not, Mr. Watson, thank you again for being here. We appreciate it very much. And you did say the council members can call if they want to call him about questions and stuff?
Absolutely. I don't see any prohibition on that as long as they're not deliberating between themselves and, all of them talking back and forth with him separately. I don't see an issue there.
That never happens. They never
Right, no,
do
of
that.
course not.
We are perfect.
Yeah, if y'all want to call me, talk about concerns or changes, that's perfectly fine with me. It would be best to schedule a time that we can talk so I can make sure I've got the information in front of me and all that and that kind of thing.
Then you would probably not be appropriate to say, well, I've already talked to Mr. Chico and Mr. Jones and Mr. Mickens, and they said this, that, and the other, because then it's still the same thing.
Yeah, I don't really want to pit one of you against the other. I
It's
don't
still
want-
a deliberation if you were to do that too, I think.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, I appreciate the opportunity to be here this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. We appreciate it.
Thank y'all. I'll get you, another copy of the maps to you. I will leave, I've got 2 large copies here. I'll leave those here for you. I think y'all got one on the wall or something. I'll leave it. If you need it, you got it. If you don't, you can throw it away. But I will get you new copies for
Okay.
individuals to have.
All right. Thank you, sir. The next topic we have is update on vacant positions within the city. The police chief, the committee met on Tuesday for the first meeting after the application process closed. All the members of the search committee have all the applicants that were deemed, that met the qualifications. They have begun the process of reviewing those. The group will meet again this coming Tuesday to try to move the numbers down to begin the process of looking at setting up interviews. Jamie, do you have anything to add to that? That would be a good.
We'll meet again, I'm gonna make Tuesdays at 9 o'clock.
Yes.
A regular meeting, time for the search committee, and I think we had a very productive meeting.
Yeah. And can you give us an update on the IT?
The HR director, search committee, has narrowed the list down to about 5 applicants. She has been contacting them this week, to try and set up interview times.
I think the members of that search committee have been receiving emails and stuff on that. Yeah, on the COC?
That's the community community outreach director. I have submitted a job description, a revised job description to the HR director and to the mayor. We'll meet concerning this and get that out to you guys.
Can you give us, council, a update on the Sandfield Cemetery eminent domain possibility?
Well, the best I can tell is that the east side of MLK is owned by somebody that is an heir to Prince Edward's, who died in the 60s. We still don't have a record of a deed, so it would be, and I'm not sure, but I don't think they administer it in the state, so it's difficult to give a clear opinion about who the owner is in the absence of an estate being probated or a deed being recorded. But so the next question is, you know, I think that I just need some guidance from the council. If they want us to proceed with eminent domain, I think we need a survey that accurately describes what we want to take, because it's unclear what the boundaries are. Since we don't have a deed, we can follow with the legal description. And there's been some, I think, some encroachments from the original deed that we do find from 1900 and some odd. And then, you know.
And that's even on the side that we already own?
No, I'm just talking about the east side.
Oh, okay. Because it does look like there could be some encroachment on the other side.
Yeah, if you want to explore whether there has or there hasn't been, we could certainly, you know, I'd recommend having it surveyed to determine that. And then the next step, if you want to survey it, if you want to eminent domain it, is approve us to proceed with the lawsuit, and we would name the successors at law to Prince Edward or anybody else that is claiming an interest to the land.
Any thoughts on that, council?
I think the only way we're gonna fix it is to, possibly do eminent domain.
And then to be able to do that, we've got to research the process. So, and that'd be good to continue that process. Any other comments on that? On the executive updates, I've asked Jim and Jamie, we've had some recent discussions about the purchase of the next fire truck and what that would look like, and I wanted them to begin to give y'all an update on what the steps would be to do that.
Okay, the fire department, in speaking with Chief Hughes, the truck that we are getting in December, we have a truck that has the same specs as that truck, and those specs are credible for 25 years. They need yes, it's a new truck. That truck, if we were to get it, we would need a new truck for 12 years. If we do not get this truck, the earliest that we can get a truck is going to be 2024 or 2025. We're having major issues with, I think that's engine 23. And Chief Hughes says every day that he gets up, he prays that it will crank. And that presents a issue for us in terms of answering emergency calls. I know that there was a call on, I think it was Saturday, where the police department actually saw a fire, and they had to call the fire department. I'm not sure if it was 23 to answer, but just thinking about something like that, if they had to answer in a quick manner, not having, and it goes out, what kind of situation we could be in. So that truck costs $975,000. So I'm gonna, I know what your question is gonna be, how we're gonna pay for it. So, well, insurance rebate, you get about $130,000 a year. So that's not enough to pay for a $975,000 truck, but we do have options. Yes.
I thought it was like 500 some thousand already, and it was needing
350,000 is what we currently have.
We need 6.
625.
625.
Yeah, So everybody's clear, there is a new truck coming that will be paid for through the grant. This second truck she's talking about is the identical to what that one would be. So there's 350 that we know of for sure that we got from the state towards that.
And then, I think that's March or April of next year, there'll be another 130,000 that you'll get an insurance rebate.
But the main question is, the council will need to vote on whether we sign off on that by, what's the deadline?
We need to sign as soon as possible. I think he's gonna hold it, for us until, after Tuesday. But we need to sign it. We don't have to pay anything until the truck gets here in August of next year. But we need to go ahead and sign it so we can secure it, because again, if we don't do so, and as soon as possible, we can't ensure that we'll have a truck, in 2024 or 2025.
And Chief Hughes can do a more in-depth presentation at the council meeting Tuesday.
At least purchase financing would be the obvious solution unless you were borrowing for some other project and wanted to do a bond. But I would think,
I mean, we're gonna need it, so we go ahead and do whatever needs to be done to let them know that we don't.
We have options.
Except if we don't do anything,
Yeah.
we can lose it.
Yeah.
Because it's first come, first served to whoever wants that truck.
We want
The city will.
Well, that's why I wanted to bring it up today, is to give y'all a heads up that we're gonna be talking about it Tuesday, and the chief will bring more information, but I just wanted, I didn't want it to be the first time y'all heard about it there. So, thank you for that update. Anything that we wanna add to that, anybody?
That there's some sources of funds other than borrowing. We talked about the insurance reserve that we have. That's probably over by about 400,000. That's a possibility. We have a general fund reserve fund of $1 million that we would prefer not to touch, but it's better to touch it than to lose the fire truck. So, and then we also have the opportunity to go out and get some sort of capital loan to take care of it too. Because the annual payments for the fire rebate already pays for the earlier fire truck that was financed. But there's enough left over that it would also pay for a $500,000 or $600,000 loan going forward if we got it over 5 years. The key, I think, is that if we borrow money, we don't want to borrow it to the excess of the life of that fire truck. We want it, so. But I think it's an opportunity that, given that it takes 18 months to 2 years to get it, if you order it new right now, this is a great opportunity for the city.
Mr. Jim, I want to ask you a question going back up to the vacant position update. You sent the email out to us. How soon are you needing an answer on what you sent us about those 2 positions?
I'd like to do it effective with the new fiscal year. So that's October 1st. The first pay period is October 7th, pay date. But, I don't know that there's a rush to do it, other than I'm afraid I'm just concerned about losing people if we don't make a decision.
And he's being cautious. There is a rush to do it. We really do need, someone in place to be able to handle something if he is not able or if Ms. Pat is not able.
Any other thoughts or comments? If not, we will adjourn. Thank you all very much for being here.